All right, back for the second day in a row by popular demand with Peter, but more importantly, with the Rockets super fan and the main
Guest
reason I wanted
star.
to come back. Yeah, guest superstar over here. Been trying to book him for a while. Scheduling conflict, but finally we were able to get Adam on here. I mostly wanted to get you on because you're the biggest Rockets fan I know, and it must have been a huge roller coaster for you this whole season. Finally, a little resolution. So
more than just the season, man. It's been a roller coaster for like 5 or 6 seasons now or something.
yeah, I know. Okay, so I don't think we're gonna go all the way, but I don't know if you want to go season by season. That might have to
No,
be
no, no. I'm not going to do that.
I think the Rockets were founded in like 1975 or something.
They were actually the San Diego Rockets back then.
All right, so we started with let's we'll talk about the trade and talk about your reaction to it and how as a Rockets fan you feel about it. But let me recap it real quick, just so we know what it is. Harden finally gets what he wants, goes to the Nets. Pacers end up with Karis LeVert in a second rounder. The Cavs sneak in there and grab Jared Allen, but the big haul goes to the Rockets, getting Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, Kurucs, and 4 first-round picks and 4 pick swaps. So I think this is the most picks I've ever seen go, and it's actually the maximum, right? 7's the maximum from one team, and then the 8th, from a second team.
I didn't know that. I guess that's why they had to bring Cleveland into the deal to get that 8th one. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it's just the maximum amount. So, straight up, Adam, what do you think? How do you feel after the trade? Now that the trade is done?
Yeah, so just a little background though, I've obviously grown up in Houston, been Rockets fan pretty much my whole life, but I cooled off on them in in the 2000s, right? Just because I got more into football, you know what I mean? I had Texan season tickets, so I became a predominantly big football watcher, even though the Texans sucked throughout all those years, but it's I still went to every home game, you know what I mean? It wasn't until college,
football, man.
Yeah. And it wasn't until college actually, and when I after I met Peter, and then when Harden was traded to the team, that's when I really got back into watching the Rockets. It was pretty much because Harden was traded is when I got really back so invested into the team actually. And so yeah, it's been tough. I think the 2018 what was it? The 2017-2018 season, right? Yeah, I think, and I recognized it then, but I think every month, every year that's passed since then, it hurts more. And I think it's one of those things that I don't think I'll ever get over it. I don't think I'll ever get over how the Rockets lost that after the Chris Paul injury.
What upsets you more, the Chris Paul injury or the fact that they missed 27 thrpointers in a row in one game?
When I think back to it, what upsets me more is the Chris Paul injury, to be honest with you. The 27 missed 3-pointers in a row. It's such a crazy marvel that happened. You know what I mean? And the fact that they still only lost by single digits with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? So when I look back, that was crazy, but the Chris Paul injury is what I most think about. Because it's funny because people say, everyone's see, we all said this, you can't win basketball that way. You can't win basketball that way with just one man dribbling, dominating the floor and just playing 1v1 basketball or whatever. But in reality, it kind of did work. It worked. They were just got unlucky that the second best player on the team got injured. You know what I mean?
Are you sure you're not just penciling them in to beat LeBron in the finals though too? Because that wasn't
you guys tell me. I'm pretty sure the wide consensus, if you're beating that Warriors team, if you're taking that KD Warriors team to 7 games, and you have the home game, but you lost your second best player, and you only you lose that way. Like I'm pretty sure if you beat that Warriors team, like that was like the finals matchup. So I think like the most of the consensus is like, yeah, probably the Rockets probably would have beaten the Cavs in the finals, like if it came down to that. But obviously we'll never know. But like you guys tell me, you think they would have beat the Cavs or no?
I'm sure they would have been favorites. One thing I always want to bring up whenever this comes up, and no one ever talks about it, is that Iguodala got injured in Game 5, and I don't think that they would have beaten the Warriors on the road if Iguodala hadn't gotten hurt.
So
Personally,
Iguodala got hurt and Chris Paul got hurt in the same game, right? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, but I think Iguodala got hurt like in the third quarter or something, and then Chris Paul got hurt maybe on like the last play of the game or something.
It was
weird,
like
right?
it was like with 2 minutes left in the game or something.
Yeah, they had already pretty much clinched it, I think. So yeah, but the Chris Paul thing is a tough one, obviously.
Yeah. So, I think back to that often, and obviously just watching Harden just sort of request players and then not be satisfied to get rid of him. It's obvious that he got frustrated with Chris Paul like earlier than he should have, or like he should never, you know what I mean? Like obviously like the way Chris Paul is playing now and the way Chris Paul is carrying his teams, right? It's very clear that, he was still the player to have on the team. And the fact that Harden made that request to get rid of him and sacrifice the whole future for what ended up being a lesser player in Westbrook, you know what I mean? Really set the team back. Like imagine if we didn't do that and we got to this point and like we would have so much more draft capital, right? You know what I mean? Like even if Harden still got frustrated with the franchise, right? Like imagine if we still had all those picks back from the Westbrook trade, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
So in a way, like I'm very thankful for what Harden gave to the city. Like a lot of great memories, kept the team in contention. Like every season he was in Houston, 8 playoff appearances, right? 2 Western Conference Finals appearances. I know like people say he's not the most clutch performer, especially in the playoffs. You know what I mean? There's the choke symbol. I think people forget that like he's had clutch moments in games. Like he's had like clutch winning shots in the last minute of the game. Like people just choose not to remember them for the most part. But the way he carried himself,
still defending Harden. You're like, it's like when you break up with the girl dumps you, and then your friends are like saying she's like trash, and then you go, no, she's cool.
No, so
wait, no, she's not cool. I hate her.
What is funny is like as soon as the last Harden Rockets game ended a few days ago, and I heard that post game interview, I was like, yeah, he's gone within the next like 48 hours. Like that comment, it was just like, yeah, it hurt in a lot of ways. And then once the trade happened, I was like, I literally had this feeling that I hadn't felt in over a decade. Like I hadn't it literally felt like a breakup. It's funny that you said that because like I literally felt like, oh, I haven't experienced like what a breakup felt like for 10 years because I've been with my wife for like 7 or 8 years. You know what I mean? It's like I haven't actually, and like I don't think a Houston star has ever left in this manner where they just like force their way out, and like at least in my lifetime or whatever. So
no, never happened.
Yeah, I was curious on your thoughts on like the way you look at Harden moving forward, because like you said, Harden was kind of like, found gold savior of the franchise, the guy that, his own team kind of didn't believe in him, didn't want to give him a max deal, but you guys, found it, trusted it in, and he becomes a MVP of the league, always, being dismissed as, you can't, have that team built that way. It kind of honestly reminds me a little, and I compared this to maybe like half a year ago like maybe at the end of last season when these trade talks started into the whole Kobe and the Lakers situation after, where what ended up happening with the Lakers is the fans kind of just rally around the one player, and it doesn't it's all of us against the world, and that seemed like it was an option with Harden, but the difference was the trade ended up happening. He went more Vince Carter than Kobe, right? He ended up kind of, honestly, toward the end of there, I think he was tanking games. The way he was playing.
Oh yeah,
so,
like you don't average 30 points a year for the last like how many years, and then like what all of a sudden there's like 4 games in a row where we score less than 20 points. He was clearly tanking those games. Like he was clearly like not giving it his all. He was trying to prove that he was trying to send a message to upper management like, oh yeah, like see the team's not good enough. He's gonna make sure the team doesn't appear good enough, right? And he's gonna like, he's gonna finally do it's like the final adjustment to really force the hand and like get rid of him. He didn't want to give them any hope, right? That like this could all work out.
Yeah, so that's like almost like a betrayal of trust of the fans almost at the end there, which kind of sucks. So I was wondering, like, how do you see Harden now? And like, are you gonna be cheering? Say, Harden makes the finals. Are you cheering for him or are you cheering against him?
It's
really hang on, the Rockets in the finals.
It's really
not against
tough.
The Rockets. Not against the Rockets.
Okay.
Come on. I actually don't know. The answer because like when I think about it, it's like it's really disgusting how he forced his way out. But at the same time, it's like, well, do we really know everything that happened in the background? Like, how long has he been asking for this trade? Like, has it been more than a year? Has ownership and has like Fertitta just like dicked around? You know what I mean? And like, or was it really
since the summer?
You think it was since the summer?
So yeah, like he demanded Westbrook, and then they did one season with Westbrook. So
yeah, so like if that's the case, you're probably right, Peter. Then it's like it just kind of disgusts me how it all ended. You know what I mean? How he went about it. Like because let's compare it to Westbrook. Like Westbrook clearly wanted out of the Thunder. Right, like after Paul George left, Westbrook was like, "Dude, just like trade me to Houston or whatever." Right, and it all happened like pretty nicely, and he left on good terms with his fan base. You know what I mean? And like that organization.
I bet you ask on any Thunder fan now, they still love Westbrook.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Once they traded Paul George, he never got to take the floor again for them.
Right. Yep. So so the way Harden just went about it, like you're right, Chris, like it's just like you're sort of like being, after all those years, you're almost like ruining all the pedigree and respect, like admiration you gain from your fan base that you created for 8 seasons or whatever, and you're sort of just all throwing it aside, like just for this one last shot, like to be on a championship team. And so in that way it really disgusts me because like I'm like you guys know me, I respect people who are loyal and respectful, like to to their friends and coworkers and teammates and teams and stuff. And so to see him that way, yeah, I lost a lot of respect for him. Do I want to see him win a championship with the Nets?
Not right now, but maybe later.
Well, it's complicated because so on one hand, I don't want him to win because I don't want to encourage this is the argument. Do we want to encourage this behavior? And I don't know if there's any way to stop it at this point of like superstars forcing their way to the teams they want to be on. Because like Harden basically got his way, right? Like from the get-go, he wanted the Nets and now he's on the Nets, right? Like, and people can argue that he did it disgustingly, but hey, he still got what he wanted. So
Anthony Davis just did it this last season, and they got
right, and look how it turned out.
Maybe as public, but still pretty giving up almost on the franchise in New Orleans.
I think we just got to recalibrate and just like if you're like a star all NBA caliber player, probably like a top 10 player, then you're basically always a free agent.
Like that's the new expectation.
That's just what it is. And just consider yourself lucky that you got 8 first-round picks instead of him just walking away in free agency, because that's the alternative. So
yeah,
I don't see it as a problem.
But it almost like, doesn't it? Don't you feel like it devalues like what like a contract is? So I was interesting. I was watching ESPN earlier today, and it's like Giannis, just signed his supermax deal, 5 years, and people are like, yeah, he's going to be on the Bucks for 5 years, and they're like, no, he committed to 5 years for that amount of money. Like in 2 years from now, he is as soon as he wants out, like it's very clear that he can get his way out, and like someone will pay that money and take that contract. Obviously, you know what I mean.
But if the reverse were true, if the Bucks felt that he wasn't in their interest anymore, they would deal him without a second thought.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's a good way of thinking.
Everyone's just an asset to everyone else. So, from Giannis's and Harden's perspective, the Rockets and the Nets or whatever are like their machines, their toys to play with. And from the perspective of the owners, it's the players that are their assets. And that's why I say only if you're a top 10 player, because if you're not a top 10 player, you'll never have the leverage to.
Right.
Even Oladipo, like you can tell the difference. Like Oladipo can't show up to Houston and be like, I'm not playing. Like trade me to the.
He wants to go to the Heat, right?
He's like he can't do that. He just doesn't command that kind of respect, and like Miami's not going to just automatically trade the entire boat for him. So
right. So, like in that regard, Peter, like you make a good point. So it's like if the world should just accept this reality and that this is always going to happen, and so like, okay, let's say that is reality, and it, like even though I don't like the behavior, like maybe it makes sense from a certain point of view. A part of me, like Harden gave his all to the team for 8 years. Thankful for that. So a part of me wants to see him finally have success because he is one of the best scorers ever to be on the floor, and like the only thing he's missing is that championship, right? And so
if he gets it riding KD's coattails though,
and that's the thing. And I was thinking about this. What's the difference? What's the difference of him going to KD's team versus KD going to the Rockets? The difference is Harden is admitting that he can't do it. He's not the best player. When you are asking to go to the other team, you're admitting that you are going to be second fiddle to the person that's on the other team.
The only counterexample of that is when LeBron went to the Heat.
Yes, which is weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like, isn't that interesting? Because it's like, well, like, like why couldn't you just say, like, no, like trade me?
Why doesn't Durant just demand a trade to the Rockets?
Why doesn't Durant demand a trade to the Rockets, right? Like he's tired of Kyrie's shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like let's go get him there. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe that could have happened. Who knows, man? Maybe in 5 months that would have happened.
Right. So it's just so interesting. But like, yeah, Harden is essentially admitting here that like, no, he tried for 8 years or whatever. He can't do it as the top dog. He's had like so many different partners to do it with, and he can't do it. So now he's going to play second fiddle to KD. And so, hey, we'll see how it works out. I don't know where Kyrie is on planet Earth or whatever flat Earth he's on, but
man, he retracted those comments.
Oh man. So like I'm really interested to see how they all play together, how Harden adjusts his game. Like I'm sure we're all really interested to see how they play on Saturday. But I kind of want them to win. I kind of want them to win this year, to be honest with you, because the sooner they win, I think the better chance of them all like breaking up and the Nets falling apart, because
which is what you want.
Which is what we want because of the picks, right?
I think it's the opposite. I think if they get bounced in like the second round 2 years in a row, they're gone. They're not coming back.
Yeah. I'm shocked that you would even for 1 second want them to win the title. I know personally, I could only speak for myself, but I would want not just because of the picks, obviously because of the picks, you want them not to be good as soon as possible, but
right.
I can't in good conscience support a guy that goes out the door like that. But we'll see. It's an interesting move. The Nets are going to be an interesting team. So
can I go on the record on something too?
Sure.
So Adam reminded me of this because we were actually roommates in college senior year, right when Harden was traded to the the Rockets. And I remember, I think I was still doing fantasy basketball at the time, and I remember being like, "Oh yeah, this Harden guy, he's like a sixth man. He can't step in and be a franchise player." So I'm with 8 years of hindsight, I might be willing to admit that was mistaken.
That's very admirable of you.
Yeah.
Never led the team to the promised land, though.
He never averaged 40 either, so
All right, well, let's move to something a little bit. Unless Adam, you have anything last to add on the trade, on the Harden himself, because I wanted to move to the Rockets moving forward.
Yeah, I guess like one thing I want to ask you guys about, like, let's say Harden does win a championship in the next 1 or 2 years. What do you think his next move would be? Like, would he just want to stay with KD and win as many as possible? Do you think like he would look for some sort of redemption a la LeBron James in the future? Like, what would you think?
I was waiting for you to ask something like that because since LeBron did it, right? Any time someone leaves, and I mean, you've seen it in the past with people, like their last contract, they sign a 10-day contract so they retire with the teams they want. But I think Harden is done with Houston, and I don't think he's ever coming back, maybe for a 10-day contract. But the thing is, they never really won there, the whole thing, obviously. And they never, like, all their biggest moments are, like you said, like heartbreaking. So bringing him back almost, unless, like, I think he'll be back, but he'll be back when he's
like, you think he's gonna retire? You think they'll retire him as a Rocket? Is what you're right? Like,
yeah, they'll bring him back when he's 50 years old to retire his number. But I think his goodwill in Houston is done up until then, until this whole generation of players is gone.
Yeah, I agree.
And you have a new generations of fans that don't remember this.
I agree. I think actually the coming home moment for him is going to be when he reunites with Morey. I think that's the move. I think they're the ones that have unfinished business. That's the only other team he was considering, and I think it was because of Morey. And I think he likes and trusts Morey, and I think that wherever Morey is, maybe it'll be Philly. Maybe at that point Simmons will be traded. That's probably his next move.
Hey, don't sleep on the reuniting we just got on this trade. Harden and D'Antoni.
Yeah, no, and I say that speaks a lot, like, to it's coincidence, right? Or like, that Harden's top two destinations. One is he has Morey and upper management. So like, if he's having issues or like he feels like he's not being able to play the way he wants or whatever, he can go complain upper management Morey and get what he wants, right?
Yeah.
Or on the Nets, he has a coach on the floor who has supported his style of play and who has allowed him to have this sort of like carefree lifestyle, showing up late to meetings or whatever, right? And like, I think he wants that sort of thing to continue, right? He wants that sort of leeway, right? And he knows D'Antoni's going to give it to him. So it's not really a coincidence that these are the two teams, right, that he was trying to push his way to. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, is he going to get allowed to get away with that sort of shit? Are we even going to hear about it? How are these three guys going to coexist? So
I mean, he's really chasing the pass already because he's got he went after Westbrook and then now he's going after Durant. Yeah, he's like the guy that won't go meet a new girl. He'll just keep calling the same girls over and over again.
Yeah, dude. What I will say is those strip clubs in Houston are really gonna miss his services. I'll do that. So.
Yeah. Wait, he goes to strip clubs?
I mean, they're just recovering from the COVID shutdown. Now they're gonna have the Harden shutdown.
Yeah, dude. I think a lot of strip clubs are gonna go out of business.
Right, and it's not just him. It's a 10 deep, or whatever.
All right, so let's go. So what the Rockets actually ended up getting, we'll talk about. They got Victor Oladipo was the main piece, the star, I guess you could say, that they got, the young star, and then all the picks. I think we can, X some Karuks or projects, then and now, but I think we'll focus on Oladipo. So what do you think on Oladipo and his prospects long term? Because maybe they're trying to resign him, but there's a lot of talk that he might get moved again.
Yeah. So the trade that they ended up going with Brooklyn for the 4 first-round picks, the 4 swaps, and they got, so actually it should be said that the LeVert Oladipo trade is not 100% finalized yet. Okay, that hasn't been 100% locked. It's actually a separate trade, right? So they technically still have LeVert, but I think it's pending a physical, right? But for all intents and purposes, it's happening. But what the trade tells me is that they did not believe in Ben Simmons or LeVert being their key cornerstone young guy that they wanted to build around. Right, because if they did want that, then they would have done the trade for Simmons and then a couple first-round picks. It probably would have been 2 first-round picks plus Simmons plus maybe one other key player or something, right, from the 76ers.
Do you think that would have been a better trade?
So like, to be honest, like I've watched Simmons' game like in a very limited fashion. I think like the consensus is right, or like yeah, he's pretty good at everything, like defense, passing,
There's
and
one thing he's not good at.
shooting. Right.
There's
It's
one
it's
thing
shooting.
he's very not good at.
Right. And so I mean that's an important piece. Like especially if you're building around that person, right? That's an important skill to not have, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of shows, I think that kind of reveals sort of the level of thinking that Raphael Stone, the new GM of the Rockets, was kind of going with, because clearly it seemed like they wanted to take their chance on the unknown and future first round picks versus building everything around someone like Simmons or building around like LeVert plus whoever, you know what I mean?
It's also
So
possible that they got felt Simmons out, or his agent realized that he didn't want to be there.
that's
And
also
again,
true.
he's got multiple years on his contract, but we've seen that doesn't necessarily matter.
Right.
The one thing is, I don't think Simmons has reached that level where he can demand that trade yet. And it's to me what it tells, what the trade and what the fact that they didn't go with Simmons and they didn't even go with LeVert and they went with Oladipo instead. Something is they're 100% in on the full rebuild, right? They want to break it all down essentially and start from scratch. And they didn't want to commit to a contract like LeVert. They didn't want to commit to a contract like Simmons if those aren't the specific guys they picked. Because if those were the specific guys they did want to, that they were in love with, yeah, you bring them in. They can get off Oladipo right away.
They could get off LeVert or Simmons though too if they wanted to. It's not hard. So
they could, but it's another transaction, right? So if you don't want the guy now, why bring him in, have him be disgruntled? Maybe his trade value goes down. You don't know. It's more
right.
So I think they really are going in, and I think money is an issue. They don't want to commit a lot of money. The owner Fertitta has been notoriously cheap since he's owned the team. So I think that had to play a factor. Stone probably had his marching orders on, hey, we need to save some money.
Well, that is Fertitta, yeah, right. That is Fertitta's calling. But I think the other factor is, and this is totally within Fertitta's wheelhouse, to be stubborn and just not want to deal Harden to Morey, right? Like I feel like that's also a definite possibility too. Like the ego factor.
That definitely played into the calculations for sure. Maybe not like the the main thing, but it definitely wasn't helping. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, if you have two offers that are similar,
right?
I think they should have kept LeVert personally, but
yeah, I think like it's kind of you're right. It's kind of a toss, but maybe they thought that like they would get better value. Maybe like I don't know what the plan is for Oladipo, but like the way they did this trade, it gets me thinking that their intention is like, especially if like the Rockets aren't gelling here in the next like few weeks or whatever, like with Oladipo in the lineup and stuff, like they'll probably just flip Oladipo to a contender, because Oladipo's a more proven property, right? He's like, I think he's a little bit better of a shooter, all around player than LeVert is right now. I mean, LeVert has more upside, right? But like I think Oladipo is the stronger player.
Younger.
Yeah, he's younger. He's got more upside, but I think Oladipo is the better player right now, and that you could potentially flip along with Tucker to like contenders just for more draft capital, more young players, you know what I mean, or whoever. So like maybe the Rockets do have their eye on like Hero from the Heat. Like maybe they think they can get Oladipo to the Heat for Hero or something. You know what I mean?
Not happening.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I'm just speculating what they're thinking, but
yeah, no, I think you're right, or I think you said before we started that it's like a wait and see thing. Like if they like what they see, then they'll maybe stick with it, but if they don't, they're gonna just deal everyone.
But his contract ends this year, so like, are we really gonna like pay Oladipo the max? Because like they're trying to. I feel like they're trying to keep money.
Getting the max, but.
Well, like, are they really gonna pay him that money though? So they like basically the only guarantee, like we've given Chris Wood his contract, right? Like we have him for like 3 years or whatever. Like, do they want to sink another contract on Oladipo? Is that worth it, or like do you just like let it go and forget it and like wait for your future first rounders to pay in?
just depends if you want to be really bad. And it's like I think I said this last night, but like it's Houston's not a huge basketball town for the most part. So usually the Rockets try to stay more competitive to fill seats and whatever else. So
Yeah.
so I don't know if they go for a total rebuild, and also they don't own all their own first round picks. So
yeah, that's the thing. They don't have a lot of their own picks, so the rebuild's not. But it's funny that they didn't go. That's why I'm saying it's the funniest that they didn't go with the Simmons route. Because ultimately, what I see it as, and you can, Adam, you can say which one you would have preferred and which one you would have liked the team to do. You know, they believe in Wood. I know that. Wall and Cousins, I think, are just, you know, transition pieces. I think they got 2 years each on their contracts. But if you trade for Simmons, you have two 25-year-old guys that you think are cornerstones of your franchise, and in 2 years you have a max cap spot. So that to me seems like a much, and then you can still recoup, you know, maybe like you said, 4 to 5 draft picks as opposed to 8 draft picks. And you're a contender possibly in 3 to 4 years. So do you think that should have been the route they took, or do you like the idea of, you know, hey, this is a brand new front office, let's give them a shot to build the team they want, let's get all the assets, you know, that we can.
I think the way they went about it is what like I'm happy with, and I think I would have preferred this versus the alternative. I think like the early consensus on a player like Wood is that, like, you know, he's on track to win like most improved player of the year. He might be an all-star this year. It's possible. I think Wall might be an all-star too. It's possible, though I think that's more of a stretch probably. But like if from what I've seen from Wall so far, it's like he is, I don't know, he seems like 80% of his former self right now. Like he's doing like pretty decent from what I've seen. And so it's like I feel like you do have a couple key players at key positions right now. And so, but like again, you know, I just like if you're looking for that next star from one of these like first round picks, I mean, you're still not going to take advantage. You're still not going to get that person for like, you know, 2, 3, 4 years. So it's tough. Yeah. It's really sort of like they just sort of feel somewhere in the middle, lost right now. And
would you say it's the treadmill of mediocrity?
Certainly. I mean, a treadmill. I mean, like they haven't been mediocre for a long time, so this is like the start of any mediocre period, right? But like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's Maury's phrase, though, right?
Oh, is it? Is that? I didn't know that. Did he coin that phrase?
That's how the process was born.
So, awesome. So, well, I'm glad we got to hear from you, Adam. Any either Pete or Adam, last thing before we wrap up here in the last couple minutes?
I'll say, you know, man, what an end to the James Harden era, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think it's over. Just like that total phase of my Rockets fandom is over, and like, you know, interesting to see what the future holds. I will say, 2-0 this season without Harden playing. So there you go.
I'm hammering that over. I'm hammering it.
Hey, like you said, Adam, breakups are tough, but you guys, the Rockets will find another girl. You know, they'll find another soulmate.
Rebound sex.
And in the meantime, rebound sex.
Yeah. It's just one last thing. It's just sort of funny. Like we talk about the treadmill of mediocrity. Like maybe with Harden, it was always just the treadmill of great, not championship. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like maybe this is for the better, getting off the treadmill of being great but not getting a championship. So
acceptance, the final stage.
There you go.
There you go. Well, I'm glad we were able to talk to you, Adam. You seem in a better headspace now after these 30 minutes than when we started, so that's great.
Oh yeah, man. I guess it's both of your fine counseling. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
no problem. Well, thanks for talking, guys. I'll see you guys later.
Take it easy. Yep.